I overheard my wife talking to her BFF. I was shocked at first, but then I ruined them.
You ever wake up one morning thinking it's just another day, and then your world gets flipped upside down before you've even had your coffee? Well, strap in, Reddit, because that's how this mess kicked off. I'm Brandon. No, not the happily married Brandon with the white picket fence and the wife who adores him. That guy got tossed out the window the second I overheard Helen, my wife of 8 years, giggling on the phone with her friend Angela. Now, Angela's this high-powered marketing exec, always dressed to kill, and with a laugh that could curdle milk. She's the type that considers marriage a game and fidelity a suggestion. I never liked her, but Helen? She practically worshipped the ground Angela strutted on. So, there I was, passing by Helen's home office door on my way to the kitchen, and I catch this snippet of their conversation. Brandon doesn't have to know, it's just a bit of fun. You deserve more than his tired, old-fashioned view of marriage. It hit me like a punch to the gut. My Helen, the one who'd stand by me through thick and thin, getting an earful of this garbagey and agreeing with it. I knew I should have given Helen the choice, Angela or me, earlier, but I messed up and here I am now. I felt this cold rage settle in as I stood there, my hand clenched around the doorknob. This wasn't just a casual chat, this was my wife, being egged on by her so-called friend to cheat. To toss everything we had built together in the trash. And the worst part? She was laughing. That sound, it was like she'd completely forgotten who she was. Or maybe I never knew her at all. That's the raw, unfiltered start of my story, folks. No sweet walks down memory lane here. Just the bitter truth of a man who got a wake-up call he never asked for. I scoured through our bank statements, credit cards, phone bills, you name it. I was looking for anything, a clue that Helen was taking these suggestions from Angela to heart. But here's the kicker, folks. There was nothing. Nada. Zilch. Our bank statements were as mundane as they come. Groceries, a charge for a new blender because I broke ours trying to make margaritas, the usual. Phone bills? The most scandalous thing was the overage charge from Helen's mom calling to talk her ear off. I even started checking the mileage on her car. Yeah, I got that desperate. But every time it added up perfectly to her work and back, maybe a little detour to the grocery store or the gym. It was infuriating. It was like I was trying to catch smoke with my bare hands. Hey everyone. Unfortunately, basically everyone who is watching these videos isn't subscribed. It would mean the world to me to quickly get out of the full screen video for 3 seconds and press that subscribe button. It's free and you can unsubscribe anytime. Sorry for bothering and thank you so much if you subscribed. Then there was Angela, who was as slippery as an eel. I dropped by Helen's boutique unannounced, hoping to catch them in some illicit planning session, but it was always business as usual. Smiles, chatter about sales targets, and not even a hint of the deception I'd overheard. It made me doubt my own ears. Had I really heard what I thought I did? I felt like I was living in some parallel universe where everything looked exactly the same but was completely different. Here I was, a man who could turn a piece of wood into art, feeling completely powerless against the intangible. Helen was the perfect wife by all accounts, and Angela, the master manipulator, seemed like the supportive best friend. But you know that feeling in your gut? That gnawing, twisting certainty that something's off? It wouldn't let up. It kept me awake at night, staring at the ceiling while Helen slept peacefully beside me. I'd lay there, listening to the rhythm of her breath, wondering if she was dreaming of a life without me. A life Angela had convinced her she deserved. I couldn't shake it. So I kept watching, waiting, because that's what you do when you love someone, right? You hope you're wrong about them even when everything inside of you is screaming that you're not. Hey Reddit, it's Brandon again. When I last left off, I was hanging by a thread, remember? Well, that thread's been fraying like crazy. Every day, the same routine. Wake up, watch Helen for any signs, any slip-up, any hint that could prove she wasn't the woman I thought she was. It was eating me alive. I started to lose it, honestly. My workshop, which used to be my sanctuary, started to feel like a prison. I'd stare at a block of wood for hours, chisel in hand, and the patterns I'd usually coax out of the grain just wouldn't come. My clients started asking questions. Is everything all right, Brandon? They'd say. This doesn't look like your best work. And they were right. It wasn't. My buddies would call, ready for a round of beers and some pool, and I'd just ignore the calls. I couldn't face them, couldn't pretend everything was fine while my marriage was dangling over the edge of a cliff. I was the guy who had it all together, but now? I was the guy spying on his wife, doubting her every move, and losing sleep over a conversation that might have meant nothing, or everything. I remember one night, I got up while Helen was still sleeping. I just sat there in the dark, watching the rise and fall of her chest, listening to her breathing. She looked so peaceful, so innocent. I wanted to wake her up, to demand the truth, to end this torment. But I couldn't. I didn't have proof, just this gnawing suspicion that kept whispering in my ear, "She's lying to you." My world narrowed down to this singular focus: find the truth. It wasn't just about whether she was cheating anymore. It was about whether I could trust my own judgment. If I was wrong about her, what else was I wrong about? Myself, my friends, my whole damn life? The isolation was the worst part. It's like I built this wall around myself, brick by brick, with every doubt and every unanswered question. I stopped going to family barbecues, dodged my mom's Sunday dinners, and became a ghost to my own siblings. I was so deep in my own head, I couldn't find the way out. All right, Reddit, it's Brandon again. My story hit a really tough spot. I decided it was time to ask Helen what was going on. I couldn't keep wondering and feeling bad all the time. I came in from working on some furniture in the garage, and there was Helen sitting on the sofa with her phone. I took a deep breath and told her we needed to talk. I was really calm, even though inside I felt like a storm was raging. We sat down and I told her straight up about the phone call I overheard with Angela, about how I couldn't sleep, and about all the times I tried to find out if she was seeing someone else behind my back. I asked her, "Is there someone else, Helen?" She said no, she wasn't seeing anyone else. She cried and said that Angela was just making a bad joke and that I got it all wrong. She wanted me to believe her, she reached out to me, but I just couldn't. I couldn't hold her hand or make her feel better. I really wanted to believe her, guys. She's my wife, Helen, who I've loved for so long. But I just couldn't get Angela's words out of my head. We went to bed that night but didn't talk. We didn't kiss goodnight or say "I love you" like we usually do. She was crying quietly, and I just lay there, looking up at the ceiling, wondering if I even wanted to know the truth, or if it was better not to know. Out of the blue, I got help from someone I never expected to get involved. I was in my shop, focusing on a piece of wood that was supposed to become someone's rocking chair, trying to find some peace in the familiar shavings and sawdust. That's when Jeff walked in. Now, Jeff is someone I'd call an acquaintance, good for small talk, knows a lot about a lot, and always has a way of popping in when you least expect it. He had this serious look on his face, which wasn't like him at all. He asked if we could step into the back room for a chat, away from the prying eyes of the storefront. So there we were, surrounded by the skeletons of half-finished furniture, and he starts telling me this story. Turns out, Jeff's sister works at the hotel where Angela and Helen have been holding these so-called business meetings. And she's seen Helen there too, but she was never alone. Always with this one guy, always cozy, like they were more than just friends. Jeff said his sister kept it to herself because she didn't want to cause any trouble without being sure of what was happening. I felt like I was in a bad dream. All this time I had this feeling, but no proof. And here was Jeff, handing me the last piece I needed. My head was spinning, but there was also this sense of relief. Finally, I had something solid. Jeff must have seen the emotions on my face because he put a hand on my shoulder and said he was sorry to be the bearer of bad news but thought I had the right to know. He said he'd be there if I needed anything, which was the last thing I expected to hear from him. So, there I was with this information that felt like a heavy brick in my hands. It was the key to everything that had been hidden from me, and now I had a decision to make about what to do next. Okay, Reddit, it's Brandon. After finding out the truth, I had to decide what to do. I didn't want to just lash out, I wanted to be smart about it, to do something that really mattered. First things first, I got my evidence together and talked to a lawyer. I wanted to know where I stood legally. The lawyer said the evidence was good. If it came down to it, I could take Helen to court. But this wasn't just about legal stuff. I wanted Helen and Angela to understand the consequences of their actions. For Angela, I knew I had to be subtle. She worked at this fancy marketing firm, and they have a reputation to uphold. So, I sent a carefully worded letter to her boss, suggesting they look into Angela's behavior outside of work. I kept it anonymous and stuck to the facts. Next, I focused on Helen. I waited until she was out, then I took my most important things and left the house. I didn't make a scene. I just left and went to stay with my brother. I needed some space to clear my head. I turned off my phone and stayed off social media. I just needed a break from everything. Helen tried to reach out, of course. She called, she texted, but I wasn't ready to talk to her. Not after all this. That was how I handled it. Quietly, but in a way that let them both know I was serious. It's not over yet, though. There's still more to come in this whole mess. Stay with me. So, I laid out my cards, did what I had to do, and stepped back to watch the fallout. It's been a wild ride, and here's how it all went down after the dust started to settle. I heard through the grapevine what happened with Angela. That letter I sent, it did the trick. Her bosses took a closer look at her, and let's just say they didn't like what they saw. Last I heard, she was put on leave and had to scramble to keep her job. I guess her co-workers started seeing a different side of her, the one I'd been warning them about. Then there's Helen. After I left that evidence on the kitchen table and moved out, things for her got real. She came home to an empty house and a whole lot of truth staring back at her. She tried calling me, leaving voicemails, sending texts, apologies, excuses, promises to change. But I couldn't just forget everything and go back. Too much had happened. I needed time to think, to be away from all the drama. I found out that Helen's boutique started to suffer without her focus. She lost a couple of big clients, and without Angela to push her into the spotlight, things just weren't the same. It was tough on her, that much was clear, but it was the bed she made. Now, let's talk about me for a second. I did a lot of thinking, a lot of solo drives, a lot of staring at the ocean. I wondered if I went too far, if maybe I should have handled things differently. But then I remembered that feeling, that cold pit in my stomach when I first suspected something was wrong. And I knew I couldn't have just let it slide. I don't take joy in what happened to Angela or Helen. It's not about that. It's about actions and consequences. I had to face mine, and they had to face theirs. I just wish it hadn't come to all this. So, here I am, working in my shop again, finding peace in the grains of wood, in the smell of sawdust. I'm picking up the pieces, but it's a slow process. Every day's a little better, a little clearer. I'm starting to feel like myself again, but there's still a ways to go. That's the aftermath, Reddit. It's messy, it's sad, but it's real. This whole saga, it's taught me a lot about trust, about forgiveness, and about moving on. Thanks everyone for listening. It would mean the world to me if you would subscribe to the channel. Thanks and have a great rest of your day or night.
I agreed on an open relationship, but my wife enjoyed it a bit too much. Seeking advice. I, M33, recently got into an open relationship with my wife, F31, because we wanted to spice things up in our marriage, but my wife took it too far. I don't know how to tell her I don't like the way she's going about it because I agreed on having an open relationship. We have been married for 5 years now, and things got boring in our marriage. Everything became a routine, and I did not really look forward to coming home from work every day like I used to before. I stopped feeling the excitement of being married like I did a few years ago. I got annoyed with my wife for no reason at all. I just got tired of seeing the same face every day. I hated the feeling I had, but I kept it all to myself. I never spoke about it to my wife because I felt bad for feeling that way. I'm a high school teacher, so I get back from work before my wife. She works at a restaurant and gets back late in the evening. I used to stay up till she got back from work before, but I stopped waiting. I slept before she got back and woke up early before she left for work. We did not even have time to speak to each other, and our sex life was not good at all. My wife got back from work early one day because her restaurant closed early. That was when I realized that our marriage was really not fun anymore. She was back from work early and we had time to spend together, but none of us made an effort. I used to think that I was the only one who found our marriage boring, but my wife also acted like she was tired. I was tired of the way things were going, so I decided to speak to one of my friends about it. My friend said it was normal to get tired in a marriage and I should just make an effort. I did not find his words helpful because I already tried all those things. I spoke to one of my colleagues at work and he told me we should try going on double dates with other couples. I did not like the idea of going out with other couples because it was too forward and unusual. I did not want to cheat on my wife, so I was ready to do anything. I asked her if she wanted us to go on double dates together to spice up our marriage, and she refused. She did not like my idea and told me it would only make both of us uncomfortable. I did not like the fact that she was rejecting my offers to make our marriage work. I stopped trying from that day and decided to let her be. I was tempted to cheat on her many times, but I never went through with it. She got back from work one day and said she read online that one of the best ways to spice up our marriage was an open relationship. I had to look up what an open relationship was online because I never heard of it before. My wife said it was just an idea and we did not really have to go through with it. I thought about it for days because it was a big step. I agreed on having an open relationship a few days later because I thought it was the best decision. I was also happy that I was not the only one who felt bored in the relationship. We made rules that said we were always to use protection and none of us must bring their affair partner home. We agreed not to date the same person for more than a month to avoid getting things complicated. I started seeing a lady who was introduced to me by my friend. Our relationship was just based on sex, and that was it. It was fun to date someone else after 5 years, and I liked the new development. I followed the rules and did not have raw sex or date the same person for more than a month. My wife followed the rules too, and also dated other people. We had sex once in a while and spent time with each other as much as we could even though we had other partners. Our marriage became fun and interesting, and I looked forward to seeing my wife after work again. But my wife took things too far. She stopped coming home after work some nights, and she would not pick my calls. I ignored her actions at first because I felt she was just having fun like I was, but it never stopped. In the night when we were in our bedroom, she would spend hours on the phone with her affair partner. She did not sleep until it was extremely late, and she even talked about sex on the phone with her partner. We did not make rules about phone calls, but I did not expect her to take things that far. The reason I agreed to an open marriage was because I wanted to save our marriage and make us closer again. I did not expect it to make things worse. I spoke to my friend about it, and he told me to give her time because she was just excited. I also had a partner, but I never called her while I was in bed with my wife. I made sure there were boundaries even when we had sex. I could not bring myself to talk to my wife about it. I was surprised when I got to know that my wife started dating her partners for more than a month. I got to know because I listened to her calls at night when she sneaked off to the living room. I asked her about it once, and she denied it immediately. I never visited the restaurant my wife worked in before, but one day I wanted to be romantic, so I decided to go see her at work. I caught her flirting with a customer at the counter. I was very jaloux, and I hated it. I did not like the way she flirted openly with him. I could not say anything because I was the one that agreed to an open relationship. I got angry that day and decided to go sleep at my partner's house. I never slept outside of the house before, so I expected my wife to call me and ask why I was not home, but she did not call me. I stayed another day at my partner's place, but I did not get any call from my wife. I went home feeling very upset that day, only to find my wife kissing her partner in our living room. I got angry and asked him to leave the house. I tried confronting my wife, but she made excuses and said his house was under renovation, so she brought him home. I did not like the fact that the only thing she apologized for was bringing him home. Our marriage was so broken that my wife did not care that I spent a whole day outside. She did not ask where I came back from. She got dressed and followed her partner to his house that day. I regretted my decision to have an open marriage that day because it did not help our marriage get better. If I just wanted to cheat on my wife before, I would have done that before she even asked for an open marriage. The situation was complicated, and I was frustrated because it bothered me a lot. I ignored the way my wife broke the rules and decided to have fun too. I dated new partners every month, but did not break the rules. I never got into anything serious with anyone because I wanted our open relationship to stop. I did not know how to tell my wife or how to start the conversation. I wanted us to start working on our marriage and get back to being real couples. The open marriage was just a temporary thing that I needed to end as soon as possible. I just found it hard to start a conversation with my wife. My wife started receiving gifts and flowers, and she did not make an effort to hide them from me. I did not like to see the flowers her partner bought for her on the dining table. Her partner came to the house to pick her up one day, and she left with him and did not return for 2 days. I noticed that we barely spoke like we used to, and we were back to square one. I could tell that I made a mistake by agreeing to an open relationship because things were better before the open relationship. I had to do something fast before I ended up losing my marriage, so I decided to ask my brother for help. I visited my brother 2 weeks ago, and he made me regret my decision even more because he called me a big fool. He told me I made a mistake by getting into an open relationship. He told me to end the open relationship and try to fix my marriage. I knew it was not that easy. I had to be careful, or I'd appear as a hypocrite. I was the one who said we should go on double dates first, so it meant I made the first move to make our marriage fun. I cannot just tell her we should end things because I got jealous. My wife was comfortable with her partner driving her home during the weekend. Our neighbors noticed this, and people started gossiping. It was no longer a secret because my wife did not bother hiding it. 1 week ago, she told me she wanted to date her current partner for more than 1 month. I did not agree with that because it was going to complicate things, but my wife was adamant. She said she was tired of changing partners and wanted to stick to one. I could not believe that my wife was not tired of dating other people yet. I stopped dating other people already and wanted us back to being a real married couple. But she was ready to have a constant partner. I told her to give me 1 week so I could think about it before giving her a reply. She's at her partner's place now, and she will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is the day I will tell her if she can have a constant partner. I've been thinking about her request for 1 week now, and I have never been so confused. I don't know what to do or say. I don't want her to continue having partners, but I don't know if it will be a good idea to tell her that. I don't want to be selfish and tell her to stop dating other people just because I stopped. It will make me look bad, and she might get angry. I know she has broken all the rules we made, and she has brought her partners to our house. I cannot ask my family for advice, because that will make things worse. I come from a very traditional family that hates infidelity. That is why I never thought about cheating on my wife before. I cannot tell them my wife and I have been dating other people in our marriage. I want this open relationship to end because I do not like how it made things worse, but I don't want to trigger my wife. What if she gets angry and demands a divorce? I do not want to get a divorce from my wife. I have always been against divorce, so I want my marriage to work. But I don't want to see my wife dating another man and staying at his place while she is still married to me. I am jealous of their relationship and I want my wife back no matter what. Any advice on how to tell her how I feel without losing her will be appreciated. Please help me. It's urgent. Update. This is an update to this post I made 1 year ago. I saw a lot of comments under this post that day, and I was able to get a few tips on what to do. My wife got back home the next day and asked for the answer to her request. I listened to what most of you wrote in the comments and told her I did not want her to have a constant partner. I told her it was time we ended the open marriage because it was not helping our relationship. My wife got angry when I told her that and accused me of being selfish. Exactly what I was worried about. I told her I was just trying to save our marriage, but she was not ready to listen to me. She asked why I only wanted to end the open relationship when I was satisfied. I tried my best to make her calm down and listen to my reasons, but she was not ready to listen. She told me she also needed some time to think about it, and then she left the house. I felt guilty because I remembered finding my marriage boring and tried to look for ways to spice it up. I did not think that my wife felt the same way and just waited for me to speak first. I did not want to divorce my wife because I still cared about her back then. We had a love marriage before things got boring. A part of me blamed myself for not working hard to fix our relationship. I just took the easy way and chose an open relationship. The open relationship only created more problems in our marriage. My wife agreed to end the open marriage 2 days after our argument. I did not expect her to give in that fast because of the way she reacted when I said I wanted us to end the open marriage. I did not think about it too much because I was happy to have my marriage back. I made sure we had dinner together and spent a lot of time together. We started going on dates regularly and our marriage was fun again. I started going to see her at work and she visited me at school once in a while. I noticed a positive change in my wife because she became more active and happy. I thought her source of joy was because our marriage was back to normal. She went to the grocery store one day to get some groceries, and she left her phone at home because it was dead and needed to be charged. She had just finished a night shift, so she did not have time to charge her phone at work. She did not come back on time, and her phone had charged for a while by then, so I switched it on for her. Several text messages and missed calls came in once I switched the phone on. I did not want to be a stalker and check her messages, but the name of the sender caught my attention. Mine. I tried unlocking her phone, but I did not know her password, so I switched off the phone again. When she came back that day, I did not tell her about the name I had seen in her phone, but I knew something was fishy. I suspected that she was having an affair, but since I had no evidence, I wanted to wait till I got the evidence I needed. My wife told me she had a night shift the next day. It was normal for her to go on night shifts, so she went. I decided to follow her that day. I had no specific reason for doing so, but I found it weird that she was on a night shift for 2 days straight. I saw her going into the restaurant, but she came out again. I found her with the same guy that dropped her off at the house. They got into a car and left. I did not want to jump to conclusions, so I waited outside the restaurant for minutes, but she did not come back. I called her and asked where she was, and she told me she was working at the restaurant. I asked her again just to be sure, and she got upset and told me I was disturbing her at work. I did not need any other proof, so I went home that night. The next day when she came back, I asked her where she was again, and she said she was at the restaurant. I told her how I saw her leaving, but she tried to deny it. I threatened to call her colleagues and ask them if she stayed all night. I did not have their phone numbers. I was bluffing. She got scared and said she was not at the restaurant. I asked where she went to, and that was when she finally told me she was still dating her partner. My wife made me believe she was done with dating just so I could stop disturbing her. I had been deceived. I felt like the biggest fool in the world. She did not feel remorseful and told me she planned on telling me the truth. She said she fell in love with her partner and wanted to be with him. I was heartbroken, but I was not foolish enough to stay in that marriage. She moved out and filed for divorce 2 weeks later. Our divorce was easy because there were no children involved. My family was disappointed in me after they found out the truth. I'm still trying to build back my relationship with them. I've been focused on my teaching job, and I am not ready to date for now. I need time to process all that happened in the last 1 year. Thank you all for your comments and suggestions. I found it helpful. A little advice: don't get into an open relationship if you can't take the heat.